everyone. Welcome back to She Boys Podcast. Today's guest is Angela. Hi, Angela.
Hello, hello. How is everyone doing today?
Thank you so much for being a guest today on my podcast.
Thank you for having me. As I go through lists of potential podcasts that I can be on or I can submit to be on, I saw yours. I actually went to your page and I saw all the, just the amazing interviews that you've done and then your style. And I was like, let me submit my information and see if she would think I'm worthy enough to be on.
Thank you for doing that. So can you tell our listeners how did you come about creating and coming up with the name In Other Words by Stone?
Sure. In Other Words by Stone is a combination of two things. One, my maiden name is Stone. Oh. I still go under my married name, which is Marshall, but Stone is my given maiden name. Oh. As far as In Other Words, back in the day, I would have friends, family members, coworkers, colleagues that would come and they would, kind of be soliciting advice or suggestions from me from time to time. And as I would give them, whatever I thought would be the answer or the solution to their problem or to their issue, they would say, so in other words, and they kept saying it like this was something like over a period of years where it's like, in other words. And so when I started my company in 2016, I said, since I'm a writer, I'm a ghostwriter, I write speeches, I do bios, resumes, I update and edit essays, and also do proposals and grants and bids. I said, that would be a good name for my company. In Other Words, and then I just tagged on by Stone for my maiden name.
Oh, nice! I did not know you wrote resumes. Yes, so I might need your help after this because I'm looking for another one. Man, I need my resume updated. Okay. But wow, that's amazing. Wow. That wasn't mentioned on your page that you write resumes to?
Yes. Under the skills and services, yes, ma'am. You probably just went straight to, like most people do, the about, but on the first page, as you scroll down, there's like an area for skills and services, and it talks about just, what I do in addition to running my mouth.
That's like, I forgot my question I was going to ask. I'm serious. But so when you do speaking engagements, what are some of the topics you discuss?
There are an abundance. The main one right now that I'm finding people are tagging me for is I have a mission, and the platform is live vicariously through yourself. Mm-hmm. So basically what that is instead of looking at other people's lives their lifestyles and thinking that it's so much better than yours, or, you're comparing another person's lifestyle to yours, enjoy yours. Because trust me, the same issues and problems that you have as a teacher, as a pastor, as a minister, as a husband, as a brother, as a sister, as an artist, a musician, as an NFL wife, as I was, those problems are the same. It's just that there may be certain areas where it's not as heightened. Like I like to share with people that the only issue that I had where it wasn't as problematic was money. But every other problem, from emotional to mental, we have two amazing children, so raising our children. And then clearly we're divorced now. So clearly I had problems within my marriage, So live vicariously through yourself. I just really take people through transparency as far as different things that I went through along the way and how I was able to turn certain stumbling blocks into stepping stones. So that's one aspect. I also talk about just what it's like being a female trying to claw and paw her way through entrepreneurship. Yes. We talk about that. I talk about being a single mom, an unwed and pregnant teenager at the time. So, there's like many umbrellas that I share about, so it's not just like it's conditional for just an NFL wife, because again, I have so many other hats that I wear and that I've worn and still wear in a lot of areas to where I'm able to pretty much talk about anything. There's not a whole lot that I haven't gone through or been through or overcame.
Wow. And like what you said before, the money issues, like a lot of people don't think celebrities and people with money have problems. I'm like, yes, they do. I've interviewed billionaires and millionaires. Like a millionaire, he had an alcoholic problem and lost his money and he came back with his money. And a billionaire who was homeless, who made his skincare line from nothing to a billionaire status. I'm like, people do have problems. And celebrities who have like had committed suicide. Like people's like, well, they have money. How do they have problems? I'm like, are you serious? Money doesn't solve anything. Like it doesn't solve everything, you know?
Here's the thing. You have to be very rich. You have to be very sound and stable mentally and emotionally, spiritually, soulfully. And then when you have a really, really strong, committed and dedicated and sold out mindset, every other area you can be well in, as far as financial, emotional, mental, physical, romantic, social, cultural, economical, all of those. It's not that those things are going to be without issues, because as long as you're taking breaths and you have life in you, there's going to be curveballs and there's going to be temptation. There's going to be disappointment and discouragement. I mean, your life is going to be riddled with it. But when you strengthen, what I found, when you strengthen, mentally, and you are a lot more stable emotionally, you're able to see through the problems and actually incorporate solutions. And most people, their mindset is, I just want to talk about the problem. And I want to be the woe is me victim all the time. And in the words of Les Brown, I want to tell everybody about my problems. But my thing is now, the Angela now that sits before you, yes, I may have a problem, but I want to talk about that just as the bullet point. But then I want, if this makes sense, I want the topic to be the solution, because that creates a greater, area for me to be able to overcome it or to do something about it, rather than just being a woe is me person.
Yeah, exactly. I agree. So can you tell our listeners a little bit about your autobiography, am I pronouncing it right? Reality to Rags and Riches?
That is correct. So the autobiography, as I mentioned to you earlier, it came about by me being really, really frustrated with people walking up to me talking about, oh, you were married to Arthur Marshall. That's my ex-husband. And I bet your life was like this, or, oh, what I would give for my life to be like that, or to have been in your shoes. And I'm thinking to myself, you don't know what type of shoes I had to wear, and
Exactly.
how uncomfortable at times it was. So I just decided, after many, many years of trying to, I'm not going to necessarily say correct people about what the perception that they had about my life, but I just got tired of speaking it. And I said, you know what, I'm going to put it in a book, which actually proved to be very therapeutic for me. So I put all of the reality to rags to riches, which really, those are just sections of my life. Just, it chronicles me from a little girl, middle school, just not having my mom and my dad around, being reared by my two amazing grandparents, meeting my now ex-husband, having children early, being thrust into that lifestyle early, us getting married, us getting divorced, me having to get a regular, full-time job after the divorce and everything, struggling with children that were 9 and 11 at the time. And I just decided, I'm going to write about my life so that people would stop thinking that, it's so or it was so glamorous without issue. And that's how the autobiography came about.
Oh, I love it. Because people see on TV, the football wives and the basketball wives, and they're like, oh, they must live lavish lives, like even the divorced ones. They're like, oh, look at, who is it, Shawnee? The one that was married to Shaq, I think. Her. They're like, oh, she lives a lavish life, so it means every NFL player's ex-wife lives a lavish life. No, they work for their stuff too. Like,
Absolutely. Well, and then, most people, what they don't understand is that those are lifestyles. So lifestyles meaning, being able to live in a particular area, your house looks like this, or you drive certain cars, or you are afforded the opportunity to be treated, should I say, a certain way because of your status. That's a lifestyle that has nothing to do with the life itself. So things that we're going through at that particular time is dealing with life, not the lifestyle. That's where people have to make the determination, the separation, should I say, and understand that, yes, you are seeing that I drive a this, I have that, I've got a handbag that may be XYZ, but on a personal level, and sometimes professional too, but as it relates to the superstar or the person that they perceive it in a position of power, we are all going through a lot of stuff, just like everybody else. So yeah, I just think that the more we talk to people and which I'm very happy that now a lot of people are talking about just their mental states and whatnot, because I think that in turn will just humanize people more, because it's almost like they think that people, and not just NFL players or professional athletes or celebrities or stars, anybody that they perceive that supposedly has a better life than them, they take it and they really think that, okay, this person has no woes and no worries, but that's not true. So I'm applauding everyone that is getting in front of the camera, whether it's going Facebook Live or TV, IG, or podcast or whatever, and they're like, hey, I contemplated suicide, or I did this, or I had down moments, or have down moments, because people need to see that, as opposed to just me all polished and dolled up and thinking I got it together.
Oh yeah, I love it. I love it. I love it. So I think they need like better help for mental illness or mental health. Because when I tried to commit suicide in 8 times in 1 year, I kept going to the hospital, no help. The only thing they do is babysit you. That's the only thing they do. Babysit you, give you medicine, babysit you, just watch you. I'm like, this is not helping me. This is making me worse. Like, and then I tried to kill myself with sleeping pills. They gave me a big, huge bottle of sleeping pills to help me sleep. I'm like, but I just told you that I tried to kill myself. Like, why would you do that? Like, it's like they're pushing me towards it. I'm like, but yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you.
Well, I think also if you look at where it actually starts, it starts with us. Mm-hmm. So I agree to a certain extent as far as like the external help, but I believe that being able to really strengthen your mind, and that's just really believing yourself more so than others. Because if you think about it, at very young ages, we are conditioned to believe what other people post, whether it's TV, radio, or whatever, and we're looking at that as standards or values, morals, or some sort of, I don't know, a right or wrong. I'll tell you something. Let me sidetrack for a minute. The other day, I had a very close friend of mine say to me, oh, it's after, let me see, how did they put it? Memorial Day or whatever. You're not supposed to wear white, right? So, but listen, I had on white shoes, right? So I had on a cute little, jogging suit or whatever. And then I had not tennis shoes, but I had on like white shoes. And when they said this to me, I'm like, well, who are they? And why should I care? I mean, they don't set any standards for me, but again, this is how we're programmed from little, or just in society. Like everything society says you need to have, we need to have. If it says you shouldn't do, you shouldn't do. Now, the disclaimer with that is, of course, there are rules and there's decorum and there's, certain, I think, protocol that we all must follow. I'm not talking about going against the grain with that. However, as it relates to whether or not I can wear white shoes or whether or not my hair, I decide to go with my natural texture, as opposed to having it relaxed or thinking that that's the standard, or I need to be a size 6 or size 4, or I need to drive this or have the latest bag or designer or whatever, or that deems me not cool or uncool or whatever. Phooey. We're not concerned with that. And again, I think it starts from a very, very young age. And not just is that something that is of the world, but I mean, if you think about it within our families, sometimes, and I get it, they're trying to toughen us up for the real world. And there's, jesting and stuff like that going, making fun of back and forth. But if you think about it, if you're doing that within your own four walls, and then when that person, he or she goes to school or goes to college or goes, we go out in the world to our different offices and stuff. And then there's other people that are constantly telling us that we're not good enough, or, oh, because you don't have this or that, you're not good enough. A lot of that, it weighs very heavily on you mentally.
Like, yeah, it really does. I had someone tell me, like, to get into radio, because that's what the job that I want to do. That's my career field. Like, what I want to do is get into radio. And they was like, well, you have to look a certain way. And I was like, well, I do. Like, do I need to lose weight? Like, I know I'm fat, but I don't think that has anything to do with radio. How are they going to see me on the radio?
Like, oh my gosh, sweetheart, let me tell you something. That is so true from a societal standpoint. There will always be those that think a model is supposed to be this size and can only look this way, and hair is supposed to be like this, or shoulders are supposed to be broad, or whatever. Now, don't get me wrong. Again, if a particular brand or designer, that's his or her standard, fine. But don't, heap that on me as a person for me to feel like I need to live up to that particular standard, or I can't become this or become that. So again, I'm not trying to step on any toes either way, because if you feel like I don't look the part, good. But guess what? There are hundreds of thousands of outlets that will accept you just as you are, in your fabulous self, in your fabulous state, for you to be in radio. It takes a long time for us to understand that, because even myself, the stigma and stereotype from what a WAG, and that's wives and girlfriends of these professional athletes, are supposed to look like. Now, on one hand, because I am light-skinned, lighter than the brown paper bag, and with the type of hair, because before I started wearing it short and curly, I would wear it long, and then I was a lot smaller than I am now. So of course, okay, you fit the bill. That's why this is what some haters would say. That's why your ex-husband, because you look like. But then I actually get into that lifestyle, right? And then on the other hand, they're trying to pick me apart. Well, maybe you can do something with your nose, or maybe you need to do something with your this and that, and nip tuck, and you're supposed to look a certain way because I'm not European enough, I'm not Latino enough, I'm not exotic or Brazilian enough. It's like, where do I fit in? Nowhere, because I don't want to. I'm just me, and he married me, or he's in a relationship with me, not with this standard as far as like what the wife or the girlfriend is supposed to look like. But these are the messages that are, we're continuously bombarded with, which is awful. It really is. That is why my mission and my platform is so important. Live vicariously through yourself, because as we do that and we stop the comparison, we, mute the noise that is attempting to penetrate our minds and our hearts and our souls, and we just become and be whatever that looks like. Like, who has the right to tell you can't be?
Right. I'm like,
give me their email address. Let me send them an angry email.
Right. You remind me of my mom. My mom was like, just put a little makeup. She's like, you already pretty naturally. So she was like, you don't need any work. You just wear something nice. And I'm like, yeah, okay.
Absolutely. And no matter what you look like, I mean, obviously there are certain things I would think, like I'll just use me as an example for a speaker or a writer. Of course, there's certain protocol or certain, guidelines and things that you want to make sure that you are tapping into so that you can present yourself well. But I don't think I ever got up and was like, you know what? In order for me to be an author, I need to be a size this, or I need to look this way, or whatever, because I'm pretty sure if every author, published, self-published, bestseller or not, posts a picture of them, we all look very different. And we're all
Right.
very, very fabulous and successful in our own right.
Yeah, I love that. I love it. So, can you tell our listeners about your book, Lust, Lessons, Love, and Life?
Woo! Now that book, that book is a compilation of what the title encompasses. So for 8 years, I went through each one of those stages: lust, lessons, love, and life. And I just chronicled about it. I journaled about it. I wrote about it. And after going back over the pages in like various journals and diaries, I said, this probably would make for a good poetry book, because it is raw, it's uncut, and it is not, is not fictional. It is true accounts of different things that I went through in my life. I like to tell people that that book is not for the faint of heart, okay? Because it's some pretty vivid and specific times and issues that I went through in that particular book. And that actually is my first book. I published that one in 2016. I did that on purpose because before I published the autobiography in 2017, I wanted to kind of like get my feet wet as far as being notarized or being noted as an author. And so I put the poetry book out, and I'm like, okay, how are people gonna look at me? But the response was so great and so grand, because I talk about, black or white, which is something that obviously, I've been faced with quite a bit. People not knowing what I am, or people saying what they thought my race was or my ethnicity was or whatever. I talk about finding love, losing love. I talk about baby daddy, baby mama issues. I talk about a whole bunch of stuff. So you're gonna find classy, sassy, ratchet books in that particular book, and that actually has been it has been a reader favorite.
Ooh, I'm gonna get that one. I'm about it. but so I did want to ask you one final question. So about the book that you was featured in, Women Who Lead. Can you tell us a little bit about that too?
Absolutely. Women Who Lead, it chronicles many women across the globe where we talk about the struggles to success. Yes. I actually was very astonished to be asked to be in that anthology. And I'm going to tell you why. The majority of the women that are in there, and again, this is the live vicariously through yourself and why we shouldn't do comparisons and just be. The majority of the women that are in that book are either PhDs, they're actresses, they're lawyers, they're, like highly esteemed educators, and so on and so forth. So when the amazing young lady asked me, the author of it, asked me to be in it, I'm thinking, okay, so I have a story that is about, just being an NFL wife at one point, and then how I grew and just different things that, along that journey. And you want me to write a chapter to be a featured author in that book. And when I talked to her, I was like, I'm not really sure if I can do that. And she was like, look, stop it. You have something that these other women that I am asking to be a part of the book, you have something that they don't have to be able to reach certain, audiences, viewers, listeners, if you would, because we did, like several opportunities to be able to talk about the book. So I'm like, but no one is going to want it. This is in 2018. No one is going to want to hear what I have to say. When you talk about women who lead, like, am I truly a leader? That is the doubt and the fear. Like that, because like you, if someone had told you, well, you shouldn't really be in radio, or do you really want to do that? I've heard that so much that, different decisions and choices that I made along the way and then, being his wife at one point, having that gap in there, and then trying to get out and work and make a name for myself and do different things. There's just always that fear and that doubt. So women who lead, which chronicles extraordinary women with extraordinary achievements, it speaks for itself. It is, even if most people don't get the book just for my chapter, there are some amazing women that are in there. And I am just so blessed and so honored to be a part of that book.
Ooh, yeah, I love it. I'm gonna get that one too. What chapter is yours?
Get this, the first one. How crazy is that? Yeah, I was so surprised when she sent it, after the finished manuscript and everything, and I turned and I'm like, wait a minute, the book actually starts off with me. Wow. So again, that's why I just really will exhort your listeners and your viewers, don't ever think that you don't have what it takes to be or become whatever it is you need to be or become. And again, I'm not saying, once you put your mind to whatever it is that you want to do, like it can't be polished a little bit, because even for myself, I read 2 books a week on different levels, different genres. I listen to motivational, inspirational videos by, just various speakers and leaders, because I want to make sure that as I'm delivering or I am speaking, I'm inspiring, I'm illuminating, I'm celebrating and encouraging people, that I am in line with, making sure that their life is being changed or being impacted positively by me.
Yes. I love it. I want to thank you so much, Angela, for coming on my podcast today.
You're like a circle that floats around me, keeping me safe and sound. And when I fall, you've tied a rope to me.